And still there never seems to be a single penny left for me. That's too bad.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Nikki, Aurora, and from me. Well, I have some very interesting news for you from on high, so to speak. I have been told by someone who is, well, I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to actually read out and how I'm going to just maybe skirt around it. Let me see. Harry's costs run to 8, not 7 figures. 8. Harry's costs are over £10 million. One question, I'll read it, me as well. One question going round top legal circles here is, and I'm going to alter this very slightly, did Harry have legal action funders, or did he have legal action? Well, funders is the word they use, so let's stick to it. I think they're trying to be a bit opaque as well. I personally don't think so, since it is my view that Sherborne took a guarantee from Harry re costs. Depending on how the settlement was done, NGN could bring in a taxing master to check the bills. Oh dear, oh dear. One tear left eye. Oh, Aurora, can you believe it? Maxie maybe might end up with even less money than we thought. Is this not... Oh, yes, you're sympathizing. So is Motty. Motty sympathizes with Maxie, baby. All that hard work. Can you imagine all that owing and iron? Oh, I just love you so. When Harry met Sally, when Harry met Megsie, baby, everything was ecstatic thereafter. I just love my age. I don't care about the money or the titles or anything. Just my age and those 2 babies that he gave me. I just love them. I know all about love. Oh, and incidentally, somebody has brought it to my attention that a YouTuber called HG Tilda has quoted me at the front and back of a video that he did, where I said that anybody who believes that Meghan and Harry are in love is an idiot. He thinks so too. Anyway, let me plunge in with what Donna Varapodio has to say. Harry said no one is above the law. He also said he wants accountability. So Trump should follow his good advice and scrutinize, expose Harry's visa application. Well, in fact, Nile Gardiner of the Heritage Foundation is pressing for something to be done about this. So let us see what happens. I know that there's a story circulating that the king has asked Donald Trump not to boot Harry out of the country. And I think that it will be interesting to see whether Donald Trump actually does allow Harry's mode of entry to the United States and entitlement to stay in the United States, if he allows this to be made public. But I've always said all along, I don't think it's very likely that Harry's going to be booted out. But since Harry says that nobody's above the law and everybody should be open to scrutiny and that everybody should be held accountable, Harry, why don't you jump the queue? After all, since you are a picture of sincerity and authenticity and everything else that's good, why don't you show us how it's done? Don't you think that would be a good idea? Jenny Chilton says, seems wrong to me, Lady C. You may say he was going to lose and that everyone knew he was going to lose. So NGN settled because they get sued a lot and didn't want the judge to hold it against them in the future. Apologies, but I don't get it. They've paid millions to settle a case that everyone thought they would win with just to keep a judge happy. Sorry if I'm being thick. No, you're not being thick, Jenny Chilton. You're actually making a very good and valid point. But it's not as simple and straightforward as you seem to think it is. There is no way that Harry was going to win the case overall, but there was no way that newspapers was going to win absolutely every point. So at the end of the day, they would have still had to, even though they were the victors, and even though Harry would have had to pay the lion's share of their costs, they would have still had to pay some of their costs themselves. So right there, they were looking at really one way we settle and we're quids out, another way we don't settle and we're quids out. So we're quids in either way. So let's take the more comfortable route. And there's that aspect to it as well. And they knew, as do I, and as does anybody with experience of the way the British courts work. And remember, the newspapers come across the same judges time and again, whether they are suing or being sued. It's a handful of judges at any given time who hear and try these matters. So they, being the newspapers, cannot poison their pond and be unreasonable. There is the overriding duty of all litigants and defendants to try to settle a matter. And yes, there is also the principle that you will mitigate your losses. So there is the general acceptance that you might lose something, but you still need to do the right thing by not cluttering up court time unless it is absolutely essential. Now, Harry's side was consuming the court time quite generously, and Fancourt didn't like it, and Fancourt made it absolutely clear that he didn't like it. So I don't know if I've actually got the point across to you, because it's not that newsgroup newspapers had to settle because they needed to keep the judge happy. It's that they are obliged to settle if there is a reasonable prospect of pretty much not really gaining more. And a settlement does not mean an admission of guilt. And they, contrary to David Sherborne's completely misleading statement. They have not admitted breaching any law or any criminal act in this regard. So let's be clear about that. And that has been a huge consideration for them. So, yes, Harry knew, well, Harry might have been the only person who didn't know, but it was obvious to everybody else that Harry was going to lose. It was obvious to Hugh Grant that he was going to lose. That's why he settled. Harry was going to lose. That's why he settled. However, it is incumbent upon the newspaper to settle. And that means, if it can, unless it's going to have a victory of 100%, then it doesn't need to settle. But there was never any prospect of the newspaper having a victory of 100%. It was going to have a victory of maybe 90, 85, 95%. So it was going to shaft Harry royally. But it was still going to win mostly, but it was still going to lose something. So also, Harry, by settling, is out of pocket. Let's remember that. Had Harry won hands down, he would have been looking at an award of a significant sum of money. And when I'm speaking about a significant sum of money, let's remember that William got a bit over £1 million for tremendously more intrusion to him and Catherine. I think there were hundreds of incidents, while with Harry, it was a handful of incidents. I make that point for what it's worth. And of course, they were generous, but they being newsgroup newspapers, they were generous in including Diana, which would mollify Harry and does them no harm where William and Charles are concerned either. It's called tactics, good tactics. Andrea Royd says, Harry's win? That's all very strange. I looked up the court case. It was also Hurley, Elton John, David Furnish, and Mrs. Lawrence. I think you mean Lady Lawrence, Baroness Lawrence. A very sad case, much of what Leveson inquiry was about. So this was the hacked off group. Very astute it is. None of them were in court, or it would seem due to be. So why the build-up that Harry was, or was going? It was and never was. So this is Harry's case on the coattails, in my honest opinion, of hacked off. When they met up and introduced Harry to David Sherborne, from my recollection, in Italy after he married the witch. Is that spelled with a B or not? I know you are pretty up to speed, but Sherborne also represented Diana's estate at the Leveson inquiry. He absolutely did. In my honest opinion, he knows where the bodies are buried. This is all a storm in a teacup. Furthermore, the court costs and legals are around £38 million. No wonder Hugh Grant settled some time ago. Andrea Roy, you're confusing two cases. You're confusing the Associated newspaper case with the Newsgroup newspaper case. Newsgroup newspaper has just settled. So the Associated newspaper case continues. Hugh Grant, by the admission of the private investigators themselves, seeks to destroy associated newspapers. He's not the only one. Now, I have suffered far more greatly at the hands of associated newspapers than Hugh Grant, and I am here to tell you, as a responsible citizen, it is my duty to put my personal suffering to one side and ensure that a newspaper group whose primary purpose is the preservation of civil liberties in this country is not shut down because of a few spoilt, pampered, overindulged public figures like Hugh Grant. The judge in the case has remonstrated with both sides that the costs are £38 million. Well, he has made the point that this is totally unacceptable, totally uncalled for, and he is not allowing the case to proceed with that figure as the benchmark, because this is their projected cost. Well, if that is their projected cost, can you imagine how much Harry is down? Because Harry forced newsgroup newspapers into a court of law. That's right. We also need to remember that the associated newspaper case is based upon a statement by a private investigator called Gavin Burrows, who has given a statement to associated newspapers rebutting everything that the other side, is arguing. So their primary witness has said that the case is unfounded and ill-founded. I am really horrified that public figures can be so self-indulgent as to put their comfort or their greed or their vanity or their egotism before their duty to the citizens of this country. I make that point for what it's worth. And as I say, I have suffered far more at the hands of associated newspapers than most, if not all, of them. And if I can say it, I think there is the possibility that my statement has merit, because my statement isn't about me being selfish. It's about me executing my duty to the people of this country. Neil M. says, I would not be surprised if, during the inevitable divorce, and letters written to the king will surface, showing how hard she has tried to mend things, but the king and his family were so horrible to her. Again, the victim, just a thought. One tear left eye, yes. In fact, 3 tears both eyes. Yes, I'm such a victim. Can you believe it? You have no idea what I've been through. I'm going to write a letter to Pa. I wrote a letter to Daddy. I'm going to write a letter to Pa. Oh, why don't I just call him Royal Daddy? Or Daddy the Royal, something or the other. Meghan has proven herself to be extremely resourceful at destroying people's reputations or setting up the scenario whereby they will be damaged. She did it with her father. She did it with the king. She did it with Catherine. She is a piece of work. It will be interesting to see what surfaces. It will be very interesting to date the letters as well. But Meghan, according to everybody who knows her well, has foresight. And she's very strategic. And she looks at the scenario and she says, well, 4 years down the line, I'm going to need that. So let me do this now. Of course, all her plotting and scheming so far has come to naught because she has unmasked herself as a plotter and a schemer. So anything she comes up with will be suspect. But you wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised either. I wonder, do you think that those publishers were shown a cache of letters? Do you think they were shown? Oh, and notes that Megxie maybe wrote to herself, because remember, she has already said that she came across a notebook in Frogmore Cottage, and I never signed any NDAs, as if she was a member of staff. I mean, who ever heard of somebody getting a member of their own family to sign an NDA? I mean, that in itself shows you the mentality of the creature. Dark Raven says, this one's mother expressed concern over his level of intelligence. Go figure. You know you're finished when you are no longer woke enough and Vanity Fair turns on you. I love it. Yes, Diana did express reservations about Harry's level of intelligence. Yes, she did. She said Harry was as thick as she was. Harry is thicker than she was. Diana had native intelligence. Harry doesn't. Harry does have some of Diana's qualities, including Diana's ability to attach herself to somebody with affection. I mean, there's little doubt in my mind that Harry loved Meghan genuinely, in fact, with relief. I finally found a woman who wants me and will do everything I want. I don't care that she's a bore, she's hot. That's what he told his friends. He didn't care that she was tiresome. She was hot. Well, I wonder if Stan Getz is blowing in the wind now. Remember that song? Such a lovely song. Wonderful song, Blowing in the Wind. But yes, your point is well made as well. Harry and Meghan are not any more flavour of the week or month or even year. When the Hollywood Reporter and Vanity Fair turn on you, if you don't know the game's up, you're even thicker than 2 bricks. Test Tube says, Dear Lady C, I have just watched a documentary on Netflix called Twin Flames. It documents a way of grooming by A. Tuning into a childhood trauma, B. Isolating the person from their family, C. Gradually convincing the person that all their angst is because of their family, D. Turning to the guru and following them regardless of any warnings and hurt to the family. Does this sound familiar? Can you have a cult of one goddess to follow? This is an excellent question. You have touched upon something I used to say, and I have stopped saying, that Harry is a member of a cult of one. Meghan is the goddess, and Harry is the member of the cult. I might even have written it so long ago that I've written the book and then updated it. I really don't remember what I've written. Sorry. I'm sorry. I usually, in fact, once I disgorge something onto I'd say pen and paper, but nowadays it's finger on computer, I forget. But if I haven't done it in the books, I've certainly said it repeatedly, but not recently. And you're absolutely right. Meghan is the cult goddess, and Harry has been her faithful follower. Of course, when the cult has a following of only one, all sorts of other complications become material, and that means that you're not surrounded by other victims of the leader, so there's less reinforcement. And with the passage of time, Harry's personality has at times his natural personality, his cussed personality in part, but his angry personality has actually shown itself. That's very healthy, except Meghan has been really clever there, because I don't know if you're aware of it, but one of her conditions for remaining in a relationship with Harry at the very outset, because she knew the power she had from the word go, and she has wielded it mercilessly. One of the clever things she did was she neutralized him and bound him closer to her than he would naturally be and would healthily be and should be, by making out that any assertion on his part that she deemed to be unacceptable was due to his anger, and that he needed therapy to deal with his anger. Now, I'm not saying he didn't need therapy to deal with his anger, but he certainly needed therapy for a lot else. And also, anger is something that can be very positive. And if you cut somebody off from their right to feel angry when they should be feeling angry, you are not only emasculating them if they're a man, but you are disempowering them because they are a human being, and you are actually making it harder for them to actually stand up for themselves against you. So you have victimized them, and you have got them to collude with you in your victimization of them. It's a very clever way to control someone. It's beyond coercive control. It's soul destroying control. And it is truly unhealthy. But it makes the person less liable to be sufficiently independent as to ever challenge you, and worse, leave you when they begin to realize that you are actually a hostage and their victim. So, Donna Relaxing says, American hair. So, watching these court cases over in the UK, it appears to me your court system does everything to keep the frivolous suits out of the courtroom or to become a case in the first place. To an extent, that's true. To an extent. Very different over here in America, as we have had prisoners sitting in jail suing the prison system because they only offer smooth peanut butter and not crunchy peanut butter. Also, we have separate payouts for lawyers' fees, damages, and personal sacrifice. Yes, in America, you can sue if your teeth itch. Love it. Also, lawyers, solicitors can advertise on TV, billboards, etc. Very different systems on the how to, but I think we are basically the same system on mechanics. Oh, you don't have juries like we do, correct? The judge makes the final decision, correct? It depends on the case. Defamation used to be trial by jury. There are some cases here that are trial by jury, but civil trial by jury has sort of been dying a death, while criminal is still, if it's serious, if going to be trial by jury. But our system is, let me put it this way, in the lower courts, you encounter more prejudice and you encounter more bad law than you do in the higher courts. However, in the higher courts, even though by and large the system is fairer and you're going to get truer justice, the judges are sufficiently astute as to know that there are times when it suits them to apply the law irrespective of the justice of the case. Let me put it like that. And Lena Love says, Mimi, really? Writing to King Charles. Do you forget how you treated his mother, Queen Elizabeth? You are a soulless character with no heartbeat. Lena Love, from your pen to my computer and from my mouth to God's ears. And I think we're going to miss out on Megsy baby. She is a husk. She is a shell. South Park got it right. Meghan Markle, for all her gifts, and she has many, is basically an empty shell. She is soulless. She has no heart, going off her behavior. Oh, she's very good at manipulating. I mean, she's certainly she's played Harry like a violin. I've often said she's played him as if she were Yehudi Menuhin and he was Yehudi Menuhin's Stradivarius. But that is not human. I mean, if I could tell you some of the things that I know and I can't publicly repeat. I mean, I think I have conveyed enough over the years to have given an idea of what I know and why I think and feel the way I do. Meghan Markle is, in my opinion, truly not only a frightening, but a pathetic creature, because she is truly empty. She is truly devoid of anything that truly makes life worth living. Meghan Markle is ultimately her greatest curse. And if you can cling to that and remember it, you don't need to actually seek vengeance where she's concerned. She is the living embodiment of the revenge that goodness extracts from people who are soulless and empty. Oh, she makes a big fuss of things, as do... I'm going to rephrase that. You remember the old adage, empty vessels make the most noise? Well, she bangs up that drum as if it was something it really isn't, and gives the game away, because the drum is so loud that you know there can be nothing within it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so noisy. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and bye-bye.